Hey guys, this is Eric Young, and you're listening to Booking the Territory.
This is the One Man Gang. You're listening to Booking the Territory Pro Wrestling Podcast.
This is Booking the Territory, a pro wrestling podcast hosted by Mike Mills, Hardbody Harper from Wildcat Sports and Entertainment, and the mentally irregular Doc Turner. This podcast is a mix of your topics and thoughts in the world of pro wrestling, along with interviews and discussions with current independent stars and your favorite stars from the past. And now, here's your host, Mike Mills.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this week's episode of Booking the Territory Pro Wrestling YouTube podcast, if you can call it that. This week, we are dropping our episode with legendary member of the National Wrestling Alliance and WWF, Sam Houston. He was a NWA Mid-Atlantic champion at one point in time, and he also was, he's got a cool story he's going to talk about with the night that the Horsemen turned on Dusty in the cage, and Sam Houston and everything he had to deal with in dealing with that situation in the arena that night. Sam joined us a few weeks back on our audio podcast that is on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Podcast Addict, however you get your podcast from. You may want to check us out there and subscribe to us because we drop our weekly audio podcast there, which features our Ring of Honor, WWE, and Impact Wrestling weekly reviews and news from the week in the world of professional wrestling. This is just our interview with Sam Houston, but if you like pro wrestling podcasts, give us a try. You may just like it. Hit the subscribe button, however you get your podcasts on your device of choice, as Jim Ross always says. But we appreciate it if you do so. Also, with our social media, if you could, before we throw it over to Sam Houston, give us a like on Facebook. It's facebook.com/Booking the Territory. And on Twitter, it's at BTT_podcast. We post all of our shows there, all across our social media accounts, and we'd appreciate the likes and follows there. So like I was saying, we got Sam Houston this week. Some of our previous episodes, we've had the One Man Gang. We've had Eric Young, who is now in NXT after leaving Impact Wrestling. So we've had a host of great guests. We've had Donovan Dijak on our show in the past. We do a weekly podcast. We're creeping up on our 1-year anniversary as we record this on May 25th, 2016. So if you enjoy pro wrestling podcasts, give us a try. We would definitely appreciate it. Without any further ado, though, I'm going to throw it over to my discussion with Sam Houston. Let's start back from the beginning. And you got to tell each and every bit of your story. But I know you got started in the early '80s, right, Mike?
Yeah, in '83, down in Tampa, Florida. I left home. I'd had neck surgery. I had flatlined and was in a coma, and it kind of put me getting into the business off a year. And then when I did get my weight back up, I went to my dad. My dad's name was Grizzly Smith. He was the matchmaker for Mid-South Wrestling. And I told him, I said, I'm ready now. I had my weight back up to 220-something pounds. And he told me, he said, I've already lost you once. I don't want to lose you again. And he said, I'm not getting in the business. So I left home, and Dusty Rhodes got me my first matches in South Florida, down in Tampa, that territory. I was there for 3 months, and then I was working every night, and that's how you learn in the ring, by working every night. It's hard for the indie guys now. I have nothing but respect for them, but every other week on a Saturday night, they're not going to really learn, and they're not going to better themselves at their craft that much because they forget.
Yep. No, I agree. Rod says the same thing when I talk to him. He said, back then it was 7 days a week. Nowadays, at the most, the indie guys get, Friday and Saturday or Saturday and Sunday. So what are they working 8 times a month sometimes?
And it's not enough. I mean, you've got to be in there. I mean, first of all, your body needs to be conditioned for, that. And the only way to do that is to do it every day. Because your body builds up a tolerance. You build up a pain tolerance, or it's like any kind of tolerance. You build it up over time, and it's hard to do that at 2 or 5 days a month or whatever.
Yeah, I know. Hey, what was it like working with and or for Dusty Dusty Rhodes?
Oh, it was it was great. You know, what can I tell you? We rode across the sky on the edge of a lightning bolt. You know, yeah, it was awesome. You know, and every guy's got their their quirks and this, that, and the other. But Dusty was a real guy. You know,
yeah,
and really, I got to tell you, and people say, oh, he's fat, this, that, and the other. He was one of the best all-around athletes I have ever seen. You know, anybody that don't believe me, they need to go back, or wish they could have been there at Crockett Field when Dusty played shortstop on our celebrity softball team. You know, our team comprised of Rock and Roll Express, the Road Warriors, me, Magnum, Dusty, Jimmy Valiant out there. Way out in the outfield, just bobbing it in, doing his thing. Because thank God for Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson, they were playing left center and right center, so they were able to cover for Jimmy. Yeah, because Jimmy wasn't about to do no running, looking for no ball.
So Dusty played shortstop, and he was the best athlete on the team.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was a heck of a first baseman because I had that reach. You know, you could just throw it in my direction anywhere. As long as it was within like 10 feet of first base or 10, 12 feet, I could reach out there and grab that sucker.
I remember the first time I saw you in person on the indie show that we worked, I remember seeing you going, damn, I didn't realize he was that tall. You know, you see a guy on TV for years, because I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and so when I saw you, it's on television, man. I remember standing in front of you. Again, I'm 5'9". I was like, God dang, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize Sam Houston was that tall, man.
Yeah, I'm right around 6'4".
Yeah. So yeah, first baseman, man. You'd have a considerable reach. Hey, I heard a story recently. I was listening to Ric Flair's show that he has, and he was talking about the night that Dusty. That the Horseman, broke Dusty's leg in the arena, and
the Omni.
The Omni. I want to say he told a story about you trying to get into the cage, and they literally thought you were a fan, so they were fighting you like you were a fan. They didn't even realize because they were so held up in the cage. Do you recall that story at all? Or
yeah, what it was, okay, back then, and it was an unwritten rule to where, if the guys ran to the ring, get your shirt off, so security and the other guys would know you were one of the wrestlers. Okay. And I had just gotten dressed. I didn't know what was going on. I was all dressed up in my stuff and everything. And all of a sudden, I'm running to the ring. I didn't rip my shirt off, and it took me like, when I jumped, because it was a cage, when I jumped up, latched onto that cage, and zip, I was over the top of it.
Right.
And coming through the end, boy, I wished I took that shirt off.
What happened from there when you had
Oh, it was a fight for my life, brother. Fight for my life.
I believe it. They talk about the stories. The Horsemen talk about the stories of it took hours for them to get out that cage that night because of the fans that were trying to get in, because everybody saw Dusty getting his, leg broken, and people just lost it.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Well, let me tell you about. Okay, the first, like when I was a little kid, my dad was wrestling Bruiser Bob Sweetan in Baton Rouge in a cage match. And when Dad come out of the cage, the people at the old Independence Hall, the risers, were only on one side. And they kind of like followed the levee all the way up, and, it was built kind of like that. And the people, they had these chairs, these metal chairs, but they weren't the steel folding chairs. There were these metal chairs that were, just chairs with, padded seats and stuff.
I know exactly which ones you're talking about. They're not. Yeah. They're kind of like, I'll call them ballroom chairs or whatever, but they're really not.
Yeah, that's kind of
metal legs and stuff. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, well, the people started picking those. They picked those chairs up and they filled the ring with them. And I'm talking about they were chest high. And Sweet Hand was in the ring, and he was and Randy Tyler, Rip Tyler, Tiger Don Duffy, and another guy. I can't remember the last guy. I think it was Jerry Miller. Had to leave. They left the dressing room. Had to fight their way to the ring. Well, my dad tried to get back to the ring, and the people swarmed my dad, and they said, "We got him now, Grizzly." And, you know, and they were. I believe they were trying to kill that man. But the other four wrestlers, they fought their way to the ring, got Sweet Hand out of the cage, and then got him back. A cage can be a safe thing, or it can be a very dangerous thing. It just depends on what side of it you're on.
So when you that night with the Horsemen, when they were breaking Dusty's legs, so when you scale that cage and you're in a fight for your life, they literally don't realize who you are because you're clothed like a fan.
Yeah. I had my Western shirt on, my jeans, you know, and I had short. Now it'd be, you know, you'd say, "Oh, look at all that hair." Yeah, that's him. You know.
Right.
But back then, I looked like just anybody else. Plus, I was young and skinny. I hadn't filled out yet or anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, it got a little rough. But yeah, I mean, it was a bad situation. You know, because the people want to get to you, you know. I mean, there was so much heat in that territory. The Horsemen, I mean, Arn, Ole, Tully, I mean, these are four of the top guys in the world that know how to get out there and do their job and perform well. And that's what they did. And they had, the people were and Dusty was so loved that the fans, it was just a frenzy, you know. I've been in riots. I've been in riots before, and I mean, this wasn't a riot because, you know, all the people weren't fighting each other. All their focus was focused on the Horsemen.
Yeah. No, I mean, you said it when you said back then, man, that the territory was hot. The people loved Dusty. The Four Horsemen were hated. I mean, it was a toxic brew related to ready for people to riot, and they were in there breaking their favorites' legs. So
right, you know, and yeah. I'm going to tell you something about wrestling fans. Wrestling fans, to me, are I mean, it's not like any other sport. A wrestling fan will fight for you if they love you. You know?
Yeah.
A wrestling fan's got your back if they love you. You know, there's no better fan in the world than a wrestling fan.
Yeah, that's true. Because I say it all the time on the show. It's an emotional investment. When they have that emotional investment, and you can go back and watch some of those old. They're on the WWE Network now. But you can go back and watch some of those old clips. I'll give you an example. I just happened to turn one on from the old TBS Saturday Night Show one day. I don't know, maybe 2-3 months ago, and the opening clip of the Saturday Night Show was when Black Bart defeated you for the NWA Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Championship. And those
he did
fans,
that. Well, that was in Mooresville, Oklahoma, where he did that. That's where he dropped the leg on the top on the back of my head when I was coming through the ring. I remember that match. I've always wanted to see a clip of that, but I've never seen that. But I was coming through the ropes, and is that the one?
I think that's the one. I'd have to go look. I'd have to go back and look because that's the. They only show the ending of it on this on this TBS Saturday Night clip. But I had to look, and then what I'll do is I'll send you a message if I can find.
Yeah, what had happened was he threw me out of the ring. I hit the floor, and when I was coming back in the ring, I was crawling back in, and when I stuck, he had jumped up on the second turnbuckle. And as I was coming through, he jumped off the second turnbuckle and dropped the leg, did the compactor is what he called it. He did that, and he dropped the leg on the back of my head, and it clotheslined me right across the throat on the second rope. And I think I flopped back down to the floor, and then he grabbed me. He jumped out, grabbed me, and threw me back in, and then covered me.
Yeah,
they were good because Nelson Royal was from Mooresville, North Carolina, And Nelson at that time was my tag team partner. You know, Nelson had been a lifelong friend to me and everything.
Right.
And Nelson had he was a world junior heavyweight champion. And you had Dusty and Magnum together all the time. And then you had me, and I was kind of like the third man out or the odd man out. So they brought Nelson came back. I believe he went to the office because he'd known me since I was a little kid. I used to rodeo up at his place in Mooresville, catching when I was a little kid, catching calves and pigs and having to drag them back across the line. But and you know, Nelson taught me how to bulldog and rope and everything else. So, you know, the people in Mooresville loved me, and that's where that happened. And yeah, it was something that night.
Well, and the reason I bring it up is the crowd, like anything else during that time period, was hot.
Oh yeah.
You can't explain it to a wrestling fan nowadays. I can't explain that to my, 10 going on 11-year-old who watches pro wrestling. I can't even begin to explain the emotion and the highs and the lows that would come with fans of wrestling during that time frame, because it was just a different era of how fans.
Well, okay, let's look at it like this. If you're watching a horse race on TV, you're just watching a horse race. You might get up a little bit, but if you're at the racetrack itself, oh yeah, you're hollering at the top of your lungs. If you're watching a wrestling match at home on TV, you're sitting there quiet, and there might be an ooh or an ah, but when you're there in it, and that's a part about being at an event. When you're there in it, you're part of that event. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it just does. I long for those days again, man. The territories are so great.
Oh, they're coming back. They're coming back, brother.
You can. We talk about that on the show sometimes, and I don't know if you say that. But I'm gonna tell you why I think I kind of agree with you is because when you look at like these smaller organizations like a Ring of Honor and even some of the independents who are drawing really, really good houses, you can kind of envision maybe the ball is starting to roll to where some things will happen. It might not be the exact same, but it could be close to what it was.
Okay. I can tell you right now exactly what it's going to take.
Go ahead.
Right now, what it's going to take, it's not going to, either you got one big guy that's going to come in and own everything, or you got several promoters that actually get together and try to work. It would be better if one guy came in and owned everything, and then you get a promoter in each town. Okay, that promoter needs to be paid, either a salary or off the box office. Actually, I prefer off the promoter getting paid off the box office, because you ain't gonna draw no money if nobody knows you're having an event. Elvis Presley could be playing right next door,
right?
And nobody's going to come if nobody knows. So it's up to that promoter. That's what the job promote. Promoter, it comes from the word promote. Well, you've got to promote the event. If you don't promote if you sit there on Facebook and type up a little post, that's not promoting your event. Everybody in that town needs to know that this is the biggest event that they're going to see.
Yep.
So, but you get promoters in all your towns that you want to run. Then your talent doesn't need to be guys that they need to be in shape. I mean, you can't get a guy from Dairy Queen to come down there. Okay, this is our fry master at Dairy Queen, and he's your main event. I'm not saying nothing about Dairy Queen, or everybody's got to make money. But you need to, if you're going to make your living wrestling, then you need to be spending your full time wrestling. You have to have. You're going to need credible athletes.
You do.
It can't be this guy that comes out and he's got a couple of $1,000 invested in the show, and then he goes out there and spends 30 minutes on the microphone, but when the show starts, and then 20 minutes after the second match, and 10 minutes after, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to make himself like Vince McMahon, and he's not Vince McMahon.
Yeah, that's a problem on the indies. Just in general, you'd have these guys who.
Okay, and then you got a promoter. You got a promoter in this town, and he wants to do some other kind of program. He's going to have these guys against each other, and then the promoter an hour and a half away, he's got them as tag team partners. You know, it's not set in stone.
Yeah, no,
you can't be successful like that. Everybody's got to work together. As you know, personal appearances. You know, they shouldn't be up to the guy to have to. Hey, man, I'm going to be over at such and such car lot. You know, hey, if you do something like that, hey, that's great for you. And if you get paid, that's great. I'm happy for you. But unless you're promoting the event, what are you doing it for?
Yeah, that's a real good point. That's a real good point. Hey, so let me ask you about your. I got a couple more things about the NWA Mid Atlantic time. Not only that, but all of them. From the time you spent in all the different territories, what was your favorite territory that you were in?
Ooh, well, of course, everybody knows that Jim Crockett and I, we butted heads. Florida was wonderful. You know, for me, actually, I was only really basically only worked in four different territories. That was Florida, the Carolinas, Kansas City, and the Mid-South, or Universal, which was for Bill Watt.
Yeah.
Now,
by the time you came to Mid-South, it had already changed to Universal.
Right. Yeah. But now, when I was growing up, it was Mid-South. And I worked for Mid-South. I started out, I was setting rings up when I was 9, 10 years old. You know, I was a timekeeper in a lot of towns when I was 11 or 12. I started keeping time but I got in a lot of guys are, tell me I'm full of it or whatever else, this, that, and the other. But okay, the Florida territory was fun. It was, and the most grueling was probably Mid-South. As far as the miles that I was putting 3,000 miles a week on my car.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that.
But Bill Watts, I mean, he did a remarkable job. You know, that's the only way. He kept his guys reined in pretty good. I mean, yeah, we were partying and, we were rock and roll stars. Why not? Mm-hmm. We're taking everything to the limit and doing it right. So, yeah, we needed that time, a little bit of time, so basically whatever we did after the matches, it was okay.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, even though it was such a grueling schedule and stuff like that, the best promotion I worked for was UWF.
Yeah, that's I'll never forget when the UWF sold to I guess it was Crockett Promotions.
Yeah, Jim Crockett. Then I got fired because I left out on Kansas City over a payoff. I drew I don't know, almost a $70,000 house in Omaha, Nebraska, working against a warlord. And when I got I was excited. I called the office the next morning, and I said, "When are we going back?" And then I get told on the phone that our office wouldn't be going back, that the Charlotte office was going to be taking care of that. Okay, that did two things to me. That opened my eyes to the reason why Crockett bought the Kansas City territory. He bought the Kansas City territory as a tax write-off, as a loss, because the Charlotte office was making so much money. Okay? When my paycheck came around the next week, and my payoff for Omaha was $75 for drawing a $70,000 house. I called up the office and I said, "This isn't right." They said, "Oh, well, we've been losing so much money." Well, wait a minute. We drew this. This is what you owe me. I was a champion. It should have been a hell of a payoff, and it wasn't. So I quit. I made the phone call and came down and started working for Watts. My first time back in Kansas City, we did I think it was $135,000 or $155,000 house with me on top against Eddie Gilbert. That solidified another theory I had, It was because the NWA would not move from that memorial auditorium in the middle of the hood where you had to walk. There was no parking. You had to park your car 2 blocks away and walk through the worst part of town with your family to go to the wrestling matches. Well, I'm not going to endanger my family.
Yeah, I hear you.
So, so weekly we were drawing about $3,000, $3,500 was all that we had in attendance. We would drive 400 miles to get to a town and find the posters at the concession stand because the JCs or this one or that group or whatever that was helping with the event wouldn't go put the posters out because they figured they could sell them at the concession stand and people will get autographs, get all the guys' autographs. Well, if those posters aren't out, how are the people going to know you're there?
And this was in Kansas City?
Yeah. I remember getting into Fort Scott, Kansas, and we worked in front. We had the decision. There was 11 people there.
Jeez.
Do we go out there and work, or do we cancel the show and nobody get paid for it? Well, we already drove out there.
Yeah.
So might as well work in front of 11 people. Give them a 2-hour show and get out of there for $50.
That's all. I've had to work in front of that many people before. It's hard too. It is. People don't understand that. It's not easy.
No, when you get in the ring, you're feeding off the fans, man.
Yeah, right.
It's their enthusiasm. It's what they do that makes you get out there and push.
Yeah.
Well, if you ain't got nobody pushing, it's kind of like, well.
Yeah, you're just kind of going through the motions.
Yeah, and I ain't about going through the motions. I want to give it all I've got.
Yeah, I can agree with that 100%. Hey, I was trying to remember. You were actually, like I said, I know you probably don't remember this. You were telling a story in the back one time at a show, and it was about, I've had One Man Gang on this show before, and you were telling a story about, it was a time when you and Gang were in Japan, and Gang was sitting at the Japanese announce table, and he was I can't remember if you said he was cursing his butt off, but he was cursing in English, so the Japanese didn't understand what he was saying. Do you know what story I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. No, what it was okay. We were at this event. Okay, the Japanese wrestling fans are way different than anybody else in the world. When they announce they clap very quietly, right. And this and every once in a while they'll go ooh. And give you a small round of a little clap, and then it's over with. The rest of the time, you can hear a pin drop in the building. Right. And Gang had come out on the stage and set a chair down, and I did something to this fella named Karanishi. Now this guy here, he'd been in the business like 30 years, highly respected, and boy, he could tie you up in a knot. And I felt it, But Gang come out there and he starts doing color commentary loud. And I was trying to nice ball, by Houston, it just kept going and going and going. And I got to tell you, I didn't deal with Gang a whole lot back then, because I was on my own deal, But I respect the guy, and we've had some awesome matches against each other together and everything. Now I'm honored to say that he and I are friends. That's like I'm honored to say Rod and I are friends. Yeah. But and then later that night, as Gang was going to the ring, Charlie. Okay, we had brought Charlie and I, my tag team partner. It was cold in that mountain town. We were in the mountains in Japan, and it was cold, and we had a half gallon of water with us in a big jug, Mm-hmm. And Charlie asked for my knife. Well, he went and he cut the little spout off the water. And when Gang went to the ring, I can't remember the fella's name in Japanese, but it translates into white rabbit. Anyway, he had white face paint and a red cross on his forehead. Well, when they would walk out of the dressing room, he would be leading Gang out with his chain. And, of course, Gang's over there doing, barking and everything like the animal he was. Well,
right.
Charlie had gone upstairs, and and the timing couldn't have been better. The guy walks out, and he's pulling the chain. Well, Charlie jumped the water. And as soon as the water come and Gang walked out the door, it hit him. That water was ice cold. So Gang's glasses, his eyeglasses, he wears those dark glasses. It's not to look mean. It's because the son of a gun can't see.
Yeah.
And they're tinted glasses and everything. Well, his glasses fogged up. And he jerked that chain, and he can't see anything. He's got that chain, he's swinging around his head, and it was like, it was kind of like when you're playing Cowboys and Indians, but this time it was reversed. It was like one Indian chasing all the Cowboys around the ring. I'm talking about all four sections, and he started chasing them, and this section moved over. It was funny. It looked like something out of a Three Stooges thing or Charlie Chaplin or something. Oh, it was hilarious. So Gang comes back, and we're sitting on the stage, and he sits down and he goes, "Houston, you dumped that water on me." Now, I did not lie. I said, "No, I didn't." And he didn't believe me. I said, "Gang, it wasn't me. I didn't do that." And like 3 or 4 times, "Houston, you dumped that water on me." I was like, "Gang, I did not. I'm not lying." I said, "I would tell you if I did it." Then he looked over at Charlie, and Charlie just looked at him and said, "Pipe must have broke." And he bought that story.
Gang's a big old intimidating dude too, man. I can't imagine.
You got to remember who I grew up with. My dad, Grizzly Smith. So I grew up around great big guys. That don't bother me.
Yeah. Oh God. So the story with Gang is on doing commentary. Is he? I can't remember. Did you say he's cursing in English and he's just yelling?
Yeah, he was hollering, nice, blah, 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 something, beep, 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 arm drag by Houston. He got, they say, oh, it was hilarious.
Nobody knew what he was saying, but the Americans there.
I'm not. First of all, I'm not going to talk like that on your radio show, and I don't use that language too much anymore.
Right. No. I think people get the picture. It was plenty of expletives. Let's just say that.
Yes. Yeah, graphic expletives.
Graphic expletives that one man gang was yelling out to the people in Japan.
Here's another one. Okay, I learned how to say one man gang in Japanese. How they said it was wasa masa gasagu. All right, so I was sitting there laughing. Well, then he would announce you in English. So when he announced Gang 19 in English, he said one gay man. Ooh.
Oh God!
They taught me something that was really pretty bad and had me going around in Japan for 2 weeks. I think I'm telling people thank you very much, and I was asking them for something else. I was wondering why all the girls were running away from me, and then when I got to the airport, I found out what I was asking for. And so my next trip to Japan, because I went over there 5 times. My next trip to Japan, they learned a whole lot of words, English words too, that they thought meant friend, and everything was cool until the last night of the tour when the promoter got out, or the ring announcer got up there, and he said he wanted to thank all of his beep beeps for being at the event that night, and then he found out what the beep beeps meant, and he come back to me and goes, funny. I thought it was hilarious. I was dying, me.
That's the wrestling business. There's nothing but ribs and jokes, and that's how it works, man.
Oh, dude, I was a king of ribs. I mean, I got a fellow that I worked offshore with. His name is Mark Compton. that he does now. Everything's clean, and nothing will cost him any money or nothing like that. And it will not involve his money, his wife, or his job. Oh yes, but I have made a personal vow that man is going to bow before me and call me king, because I got some stuff planned for him. I talked to him the other day. I told him, I said, "Hey man, I got some personal appearances booked. I need you on." And he goes, "Really? Where?" And I told him I made it close to his house. And he said, "Really? Okay, cool. I'll be there." Good. I said, "Good, because you're half the bill." And he said, "What do you mean I'm half the bill?" I said, "Well, I booked it as Sam Houston and little Enos Burdette from the Smokey and the Bandit movie. That was Paul Williams." And he went, "What?" And he used to get really ticked off because on the oil platforms, I would always pass out because we called it, because he looked a little bit like Danny Partridge from the Partridge Family. So when he'd come in the morning for the safety meetings, I'd have all the guys and we'd be singing "Hello World" is a song that was the Partridge Family theme song. Oh, it used to tick him off. Well, I did some work or did some investigating on Google or whatever and then I found out that Danny Bonaducci is actually like almost 5'10". So I called Mark again, and I told him, I said, I was going to book you as Danny Partridge, but he's taller than you, so I couldn't do that, I said, you fit the bill more for Paul Williams.
Oh, the wrestling business where everybody ribs everybody. It's part of it.
But I've got people that have come up to me and told me, called the truce, called it off, the whole 9 yards. I never messed with anybody unless they messed with me first. And if they mess with me, well, you're either going to come back and you're going to say, "Please, I'm done," because I will not be second best.
Well, I used to not. I didn't mind the jokes when in the ribs when they were done in a I guess you can call it a classy way, done where it was all fun and games. I didn't like it when people would do things it was malicious, whereas to harm somebody. I don't mind I don't mind the jokes. You want to play a joke on me and it's all funny and giggles and whatnot.
Oh hell, I'm gonna laugh too. I'm gonna laugh too if it's on me. If it's a good one.
Right.
But it's like I've done this to 3 people. They partied a little hard, and when they pass out, you take that Sharpie magic marker and you write "stupid" across their forehead, and then you load them up in the car and take them to a convenience store or restaurant or the airport. You let them out. And people are laughing and waving at them and stuff, and they're waving back, and especially if it's somebody famous like a wrestler, they think, "Oh, people are recognizing me."
Right.
They think I'm all that in a bag of chips, and really you're not all that in a bag of chips. You're sitting there with "stupid" written across your forehead.
You sitting there, see, I always laugh because, man, anybody I know, not everybody, but people I know that have rode in a car or ride, they talk about the fact that he liked to shave eyebrows. I'm like, man, I've been in a car or ride before, and I fell asleep, man. I never had my eyebrows shaved, so I guess I'm lucky. But
you're lucky.
I've had a bunch of people tell me about riding with the shaving of the eyebrows on people. So yeah, man, like I said, that's all fun and games, man. There's no harm, no foul there. It's kind of hilarious.
Right.
But
and the eyebrow thing. Let me tell you about the eyebrow thing. If you shave both of somebody's eyebrows off, people look at you for a couple of minutes and then they can't figure it out. Something just not right with that guy, but I don't know what it is. But if you shave one eyebrow off, that's they get it right away.
Right. Yeah, no, that's the. But you used to tell one. This one was corny, but I never forget. You would have a jar or a container of nuts in the back of the show, and you look over. You go, "Hey, you want a handful of my nuts?"
Yeah, just
no, thank you. I'll pass, ma'am. I'm good, man. No, you keep this nut to yourself.
Yeah. Hey, man, you're on the road. It's kind of like you're not miserable, but you kind of are. You're road weary. You look for anything, for excitement and stuff.
Most definitely.
I mean, and I mean, like me and Ultimate Warrior, we had this game that we would play at the airports. Please, I hope no one gets upset, and I'm not, saying, but laser tag was big down there, back big in that time, and but we had a diversionary. It was, because we were in the WWE and this, that, and the other. Our game was laser fag. Yeah. And yeah, so
okay. I can only imagine where that's going.
Huh?
I said I can only imagine where that goes.
Oh yeah, so but yeah, I mean, we had you make up your own fun, You just that's how it was back then. Like, I got to tell you, and this was probably the most juvenile thing but I used to get such a big kick out of it. You'd be at the airport or something, trying to like have a drink or doing whatever, and then somebody comes up to you, and it not the boys, it was fans or whatever, and they'd come up to you and they'd start talking to you, and then then they'd hit you with all that crap's fake and this, that, and then try to belittle you.
Right.
But they used to irritate. I haven't said nothing mean to you. Why are you saying something mean to me? So with guys like that, I always had my book with me because I write songs and stuff for myself. And so I always had a marker and pen and this, that, and the other. So what I would do would be, if somebody would start being a real, butt or something, I'd do the old kick me sign. And I'd pat him on the back as I'd leave. All right, you have a good day, good talking to you or whatever. I'm out of here, my flight, whatever. And then I would go and I would sit down somewhere, and they would be walking down the breezeway there, the little, hallway, going to their gate with a kick me sign on their back. They wouldn't know about it, but everybody else would see it. And they'd all bust out laughing. So you got to look at, okay, yeah, I'm sorry I made that guy a joke, but look how happy I made everybody else.
Right. I'm at the expense of one will make a bunch of other people laugh. I think the best one is you take the Sharpie and write stupid, and the boys get out.
Yeah, the car I did that. I did that to Jake. I did it to James Beard, and I did it to Bubba Monroe. And I did it to Bubba Monroe and James Beard on the same night because we had this big party at George Armstrong's house. He was the head security guard. So me and Murdoch and a whole bunch of us were there. Well, earlier in the evening, we used to go to this club called Lockers in Dallas on Friday night. So I would go in there and I would, get my drink, and I'd go back to the back, and then everybody would come in and they would make their rounds, everybody come up and talk to you for a second and they leave. Well, there was this one lady that I talked to every Friday night, and, she was a nice lady. We just sit there and talk, So I come in, I got my head taped up, and she said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I got opened up tonight." And she goes, "Oh, that's not real blood." And James Beard walked by. James Beard, the referee, walked by. He looked at her and goes, "You don't think?" And he thumped my head. And when he did, it was like it just opened back up, and just covered me. So Kim, the lady that ran the place, owned the place.
I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean too.
Yeah.
Because that thing will open up quick, man. Especially if it's a fine cut. So if somebody thumps on it, it's gonna open back up.
So Kim gives me her first aid kit, and I go to the bathroom. I get cleaned up. Well, I walk out of the bathroom. James has got his chair pulled right next to the girl, and he's got his arm around her, and I'm like, oh look, he come over there and took my friend. So I was like, okay. Well, Bubba Monroe had tried to do something in the dressing room, and whatever he tried to do kind of fizzled out too, So we go back to George Armstrong's place because they got 10 cases of beer. All right. And we had to wrestle in Thibodeau the next day. Well, Thibodaux, Louisiana, and we're in Mesquite, Texas. So we're drinking and partying and everything. Well, evidently, I don't know how this happened, but I guess some sleeping pills, some halcyons were involved. And James Beard and Bubba Monroe both passed out in the living room. And me and Murdoch, we're sitting there talking. Well, somebody, and I guess I'll take the blame for this one too, because it was me. Somebody got their Sharpie magic marker out of that little fanny pack, the boogie bag, and I wrote stupid across James's head and across Bubba's head. Me and Murdoch then went to George's bathroom, the front bathroom, and we took the mirror off the wall.
Right.
And we put it in Tiffany. It was either Tiffany or Desiree's bedroom, George's daughters. We put it in their bedroom. So the next morning at 7 o'clock, me and Murdoch and Randy Rhodes, we're still up there. We're still drinking beer and laughing. Well, we laughed so loud. One time we wake James up. And James sits up and he goes, "Hey, man, what are y'all laughing at?" And when he said that, I look, he's got stupid right across the forehead. So I go over there and I point at Bubba. So James stands up and he walks over and he's sitting there and he looks down at Bubba, and Bubba's got stupid written on his head. So James starts laughing and he goes over in the kitchen to start making coffee. He went to the restroom and then he went to go make coffee. Well, he's making coffee and he was laughing. Well, that Bubba started moving around. So Bubba wakes up and he goes, "Hey, man, what y'all laughing at?" So I point over at James. So James turns around from making his coffee, and Bubba sees stupid written across James's forehead. So Bubba starts laughing. Well, Bubba's laughing because James has got stupid written across his head, and James is laughing because Bubba's got stupid written across his head. I just happened to be riding with James that next day all the way to Thibodaux. Okay, me and James, when we leave George's house, we stopped at the gas station in Mesquite, and James went in and paid for his gas there. And people are just so nice, he's like, "Oh, that lady was so nice, And then we stop in Shreveport. And we get gas again, top off the tank, and we go to eat. It used to be Merle's up in Shreveport that we used to eat at. So we go in there. And everybody's just laughing and smiling and enjoying themselves and everything. And me and James eat there. And then when we get to Alexandria, we stop at a Walmart. And James goes in there. And he just can't believe how nice everybody is to us. So, anyway, we get to, when he gets back in the car, we're in his truck. We drive, and we're driving from Alex now on that little stretch between Alex and Lafayette.
Yeah.
And we're driving that, and James looked in his rearview mirror. He's checking out the traffic behind him, and then he grabs his mirror to adjust it. And when he goes to adjust it, then he sees something on his forehead.
How many hours later is this now?
Oh, gosh, this was like later in the afternoon, almost in the evening. It's like 4 o'clock in the evening. So then he looks at me, and man, look, I kid you not, the guy could have chewed nails. He was so mad. And he looked at me, and he's like, "You did this." And I said, "Wasn't me, man." And he goes, "What are you talking about? It wasn't you." I forgot the part where James's fingernails were painted red, too. But he caught on to that because he'd been chewing on his fingernails the whole way, trying to get the red off. But I said, "Wasn't me, man." He goes, "Wasn't you?" And I was like, "Nope, it was Murdoch." Because I knew that the only way I was going to make it back home was in his truck. So I had to shift the heat over to Murdoch. So after we got back, I waited a couple months, and then I finally did fess up. I was like, I'm the guy that did that.
That's awesome. I did
the same thing to my brother in Wisconsin. But I dropped him off at the airport.
Oh, that's even better. He's getting on the airplane. Was stupid. I was gonna say I've had James on the show before, and let's just say I never heard the story about when Sam Houston wrote "stupid" on his forehead.
Well, you're not going to, because these
I
are
know.
things that guys want to forget, you know?
Right.
Because really, they look like a total, a total dumbass.
They do. That's great though. Hey, before I wrap this thing up, Sam, because I don't want to keep you too long. You didn't give me a lot of time already. What was it like during your time? I don't even remember how many years you had in WWF, but or how long you were there. But just your thoughts on your time in the WWF at the time.
At the time, it was a grueling schedule. We were in 3 major cities a night. I mean, on Monday nights and Tuesday nights, you'd work anywhere from 1 to 4 or 5 times a night, depending on how many tapes they were doing and how much you were in demand. I was there for 4.5 years. And it's kind of like what I wrote on my Facebook thing today. It's too corporate now. I mean, Vince McMahon. I mean, he took something that was in skating rinks and old auction barns, and every once in a while the civic center, municipal auditorium, and he's in the biggest coliseums in the world. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what a promoter is supposed to do. Open up the big venues like that.
Yeah.
And back then, we were in all the biggest places, but we were still every once in a while, we'd still be in a high school or a college or what have you. But the schedule, it was a grueling schedule. And now they don't, the guys don't do it like that. But I wouldn't trade any of my experiences for anything else in the world, because everything's been a lesson for me, a lesson in life and a lesson in business.
Yeah.
So, I take blame as far as any bad decision making and stuff like that throughout my life, throughout my career. I take blame on that because I was never forced into anything. I was strongly advised, to get on the steroids and this, that, and the other. But if I had it to do all over again, I think I'd make some minute changes. But as far as major changes, no, I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah, I've heard a number of ex WWF guys from that time period talk about the schedule back then. I mean, it's nothing like it was. I remember, I don't know who said this, but they were talking about how there used to be, they'd have 2 different road teams. I mean, you have one.
Well, you had 3.
Oh, it's 3. So there you go. You had all these different teams. You were running 3 different towns a night sometimes. And it was just a completely different animal as compared to nowadays.
Completely different game.
Yeah,
Completely
they do.
different.
Right now they do Monday, they do Tuesday, and I think they're on the road Wednesday too. But and I think they do like some WWE live type events or house shows on the weekends. But it's definitely not a 7-day a week deal like it was back in the day.
No, not at all. I mean, and look, I go to the events now here and there, and they extend the offer to me, and I really like getting in there, and the respect I get from the guys. I mean, I can't believe it. It really makes you feel wonderful, when they come up to you and they start talking to you, like, Ryback, I could spend hours talking to that guy, But I mean, it's just the respect and the admiration and the I guess in prison you said the props you get from those guys, but the guys on the road realize what the guys before them have done, because their schedules, even though they're not anywhere near the same, and they're being treated like the greatest thing in the world. They know what we went through because they only get a small part of it. Nowadays, you break a fingernail or whatever, and you got a week off, or they've got doctors check you. We didn't have that. You got hurt, it was tape up and go time. And I learned that from Terry Funk. Terry, I remember Terry walking into Greensboro, North Carolina. He's laid out on the table. I said, "What's wrong, Terry?" And he said, "Oh, I've got a fractured hip." Yeah, the man had a fractured hip, and he still went in there, still went out there and put like 45 minutes in with Flair. You know, the bell rang, he'd come up, and when he walked through that curtain, yeah, he was limping some, but the guy still made it out there. I mean, those were the days of tape up and go. You know, then you get later on in careers and stuff. And oh man, I think I pulled this. Well, we didn't have that luxury back then. You know, if you went out there, whether you were hurt or not, you did what you could.
Yeah. I know. I Gang said it best on when I had him on the podcast. He said, back in my day, when you were working for Cowboy Bill Watts, he said, if you died on the road, you better have somebody haul your body into the arena and put it in the ring to get the 1, 2, 3 on. And that was his way of, you know, I mean, he was exaggerating, but that was his way of saying, man, you strapped it up and you went out there and did battle no matter what. It
you
was,
did
because you didn't get paid. Unless you
appeared, you didn't make no money. Yeah, you didn't make no money if you weren't there. Yep. Yeah.
Different ball, you know, altogether different ball game than what you're dealing with nowadays. And you know, I'll say this too. That's one thing about indie guys to me is most indie guys that I met over the years, they'll go out there hurt as well because they actually love it. They love what they're doing, and it's not even a matter how much they're gonna get paid. It's just the love of it. Whereas not other than that, man, if you're up in the WWE, man, they ain't letting you in the ring if you got, you know.
Oh no. You know, and I don't, you know, you got to commend WWE on that for that policy, but yeah, it's a whole nother ball game now. But you got to look at also, and I'm not trying to cut anybody down or anything like that, but the independent guys. I went to an independent show in Pennsylvania that my daughter was on. I wanted to go see her work, so I drove from Texas all the way to Pennsylvania to see her. And I remember there was this one guy. I don't remember his name, but blonde-headed guy, real skinny, probably weighed about like $160 and stuff. And you know, I was watching his work, and he was horrible. He's horrible. And I'm sitting here watching. And everybody thinks, oh, well, you know, he does this and he does this. This move, and this is the fans telling me. And I'm like, well, if these are his signature things, you know, but there's no setup, there's nothing. You know, he just does it. And it's kind of like, well, I mean, the guys don't know how to work nowadays.
Rod said this to me a million times. If you want to do all that stuff, make it mean something.
Yeah. It's just wasted movement, man.
Yeah.
It's just,
that's what he told me. Make it mean
something. It's just wasted movement. And like, I see things on, I've seen some suplex. One guy suplexed the other guy on the ring apron the other day. Well, somebody's going to be dead, you know? The back went halfway on the ring apron and halfway off, you know. And I'm like, well, that was stupid. And then I seen this other guy. He put a guy on the top rope, and he's going to go up there and jump on his shoulders and do this move, coming straight down on his head, and in front of like 16 people. How you do that? It's kind of like, man, you know, no. I think I'll pass on that move tonight, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm going to show these 16 people, you know, well, dude, now you don't walk now for what, 9, 10 months? Because you messed up, buddy. You know, you're laying in traction. Was that $35 or whatever you got paid for that? Was that worth it?
Was it worth it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, so Sam, do you I'm gonna wrap this thing up because man, you give me an hour of your time. I don't want to take too much more of your time. Do you do social media at all, like Facebook and all that? I think you got a Facebook page. Don't you?
I'm on Facebook. It's under Michael Sam Houston. Okay. And then there's 2 fan pages on that I'm trying to get. One of them is Sam Houston Fan Nation, And the other one is linked off on my Facebook account. I think that one is just Sam Houston. And because I'm just learning how to do this stuff, you know. Like I said, I'm from the Stone Age. And but I mean, that's how people can reach me now. I've got over 5,000 friends, so I can't really add any friends, but you can follow me on that.
All right. So y'all heard it. He's under Michael Sam Houston. I actually pulled it up as I'm sitting there chatting with him. You can't miss it because it's an old promo pic of his whenever you go to his page. So you will see it. It'll say he's a professional wrestler, so you can follow him there. And I'm sure you'll post, like, once you get your T-shirts and stuff up and running, you can post them all there and everything, right?
Right. Well, there's already the black T-shirts already been posted on, and I'm waiting on the artwork. And I'm trying to. That's why I missed your call the first time, was because I was trying to get this PayPal thing, this button thing. Now I just found out from talking to them that all the work I did yesterday was for nothing.
Oh.
You know. So now I got to create, different buttons for different sizes. So I'll be doing that for probably the rest of the evening.
Well,
But if you want to see what the shirt looks like, go to Facebook, and it's up there now. And as soon as I get the button and everything all lined up, then I'll have it up there.
All right, that sounds good. Now, and I'll tell you what, I'll make sure that I plug once once you have everything up there and everything. If you want to send me a message or whatever, I'll make sure I plug it. Make sure that everybody knows where to get it from once the episode drops, because it'll probably be a couple weeks before I put everything out there. Because what I do is I'll usually record a few weeks in advance before getting it out there. But yeah, man, I appreciate you doing the show again. I really do, man. Taking some time with me and just talk some wrestling. Open invite anytime you want to come back.
Well, thank you, my man, and you keep in touch, all right?